of those things I never like to talk about, but like we have to address certain things that happen in the business that are just very unfortunate and should never be happening. But Derek Whibley came forward, the lead singer of Sum 41, and he said that he accused that his former manager did physical and verbal abuse towards him while they were initially forming the band when they first came together. He claimed that in his new memoir, which is called Walking Disaster, My Life Through Heaven and Hell, that the frontman was groomed and sexually and verbally abused by Greg Norrie, who was the band's manager early on. Now, of course, Greg was in a band before, a Canadian punk band called Trouble Charger, and eventually started collaborating with Sum 41, working as a co-writer, a co-producer, and then later joining the band officially as their manager. And at this time, when they were very freaking young, and now I know at the time Derek was like 16 years old, he started doing some very weird things. First of all, he didn't want the band to talk to anybody else. He's saying, everybody's snake in the grass in this business, don't trust them, only trust me, and that's what it is. So they were not allowed to talk to anybody else. And then Norrie started coming forward and serving him alcohol. When he first time drinking, he's like giving him alcohol, giving him ecstasy in a bathroom, and then passionately making out with him, being like, we have something here. We know what to do. Didn't know what to do, he said. He was kind of in shock about this. He said that over and over again, there were failed attempts to shut down. He couldn't shut him down for a sexual relationship between the former manager. And he just kept coming after him. So much so then later on in life, his former wife, Avril Lavigne, came forward and said, yes, that's abuse. And he was sexually abused. And now this is coming forward again. He's writing this memoir. He said he couldn't actually say, he couldn't do the memoir without actually addressing this. He had to address it. He kept saying, what you do? Now, what will happen beyond this? Who knows? I can imagine maybe a big shakeup, maybe a big lawsuit. But overall, I would say this. It sucks. It should never happen. We talked about, last week we were talking about, again, a band from early on in the 90s. We're talking about what was going on with residuals, which is a big thing. It was like people are getting paid residuals. People are getting sexually harassed. This happens all the time in every facet of the business. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. When it does happen, we have to address it. And he wasn't Me Too. No, this is just coming out now. And it's really drastic and it's very interesting to see it. I'm happy that he's able to speak up and tell people that this happened because it does take a lot. It takes a lot to say it, and it should never have happened. Again, you're young, you're impressionable, you're trying to make your way up in the business, you trust somebody, and then they take advantage of you. It sucks. And I'm just really bummed to hear this out because I liked Sum 41 growing up, and I hope that he's going to be okay and the band will be okay moving forward. I'm happy that he was able to come forward about this. But everyone's talking about this pretty big wavelengths right now. Lexi, you heard about this. Did this surprise you? And do you think that overall, think anything bad will come for Norrie moving forward now because this happened, this came out?
I mean, I think that a lot more males are coming forward on things, and it's made a lot other males more comfortable. And I think the world we live in has made a lot more people feel comfortable with this. I was shocked to see that it was the lead singer of Trouble Charger, because I saw Trouble Charger live when I was like 18, I think, or something like that. Yeah, they're a huge Canadian band. Some also, the chat keeps saying they spelled their name wrong. It's Sum, like SUM, like the sum of something, like not some, like something. So,
yeah,
like
Sum 41.
Anyway, like,
Sum 41.
the sum of 41 is like, yeah, think of it like that. So anyway, but like, yeah, like Trouble Charger sucked anyway. Like, these guys are bigger than them. So, but Trouble Charger are a huge Canadian band. They've been around since the 80s. Like, they were a major act. So, they had a lot more power over them. And obviously they were also using them to ride their coattails to get somewhere too. Cause this band was more successful. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he says too, he tried to justify the actions that they're taking on him. He's like, well, a lot of rock stars are bisexual. They're gay. So I guess maybe it's okay. It's okay that this was done. Maybe this is what I should be doing. He tried to justify it over and over that this is what he should have been doing because, like, he was a rock star and this is the rock star life, but it's not the rock star life. This is abuse. And obviously,
that's bullshit. That's what that is, Lexi.
And it wasn't just that one, Avril Lavigne, his other wife too. His second wife was also like, yeah, this is like fucking abuse. You gotta say something finally. But it's hard to talk about abuse. I've been abused. It's hard to talk about, that's something I just now am talking about in my 40s, so he's, also in that point in his life where it's something I'll just now talk about too. So people don't want to talk about their abuse. It's not something that you want to just talk about, but like, you have to talk about it because it puts a spotlight on individuals. It puts a spotlight on the industry. It puts a spotlight on the way things are. Like, but it
Dirtbags,
also
yeah,
puts a spotlight on like how things are being handled behind the scenes, right? Like, it's not just the individual who had things done to him, but that it's symptomatic of a larger problem in the system that we have going on. I mean, this all goes back to the quarries. This all goes back to Shirley Temple. This all goes back to a system of children because these were kids in an entertainment industry
16
who are
years old.
being exploited and sexually abused. And it's like, it doesn't matter whether they're musicians or actors or, whatever they are. As soon as they enter in this entertainment industry, there's always some asshole there trying to groom them and exploit them in some fucking way. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to sit and listen to this. And like I said, it's exhausting to go from Shirley Temple to this, and we're still listening to these stories. How are we still doing this all these years later? I don't mean to bring her up, but it's like the fact that it goes back as far as her up to this point. It's like it hasn't stopped.
It's insane. It hasn't stopped, and the idea is it's going to stop. We keep hoping. We keep hoping it's going to, like, these cases will fix it.
To answer Lexi's question, the reason it's still going on because nobody prosecutes the assholes that are doing it.
That's exactly what it is. Nobody prosecutes.
If they took one case like this one we're just talking about, and they prosecuted, and that asshole went to jail for life, and he'd last about 20 minutes in prison.
And that's
sorry, Jeff.
They hate child abusers in the prison world.
Absolutely do.
Bitch. Kind of like Diddy with Papa, his cellmate.
But this is also a problem, and I just cut you off. But we're having this problem on the YouTube side of things too, with the social media and stuff. We have a completely unregulated YouTube social media presence, and we have older social media influencers on there who are constantly getting in trouble for grooming. It's a consistent, nonstop problem since the inception of YouTube, since the inception of TikTok, since the inception of any of this. It doesn't matter what the platform is. As long as there are older people engaging with a younger audience, grooming seems to just be an issue. Engaging with a younger audience in a sexual manner seems to just be a consistent, nonstop issue. I don't know why. We just struggle with this. We struggle with this as a society.
Yeah, this is a big thing. We try to prosecute these people. We do try. Sorry, Jared. I was supposed to say we try to prosecute some people. Like, look at like Harvey Weinstein. That was a big thing. We're trying to put a big red flag on here. This shouldn't be happening. Now it's happening with Diddy. But then again, it's like these things have been happening. Like you're saying from early on in Hollywood, it's been like a secret thing. Even when the Me Too thing happened, there's a bunch of people that got away with it. They just like were hidden away, told to step down, told to step away, and then they go about their business like nothing happened. And there's a lot of stuff that happened, like inner workings of kid shows and stuff I've heard about. It's really unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. You're right. With the YouTube algorithm, there's a lot of people out there, and there's always going to be
River
parents
Phoenix,
that are pushing their kids.
Corey Haim. I mean, how many of them need to kill themselves before, it's addressed?
Yeah, well, we don't want to see more deaths, and like unfortunately, what happened with River Phoenix is very, very unfortunate. It's really sad. I just hope that as people have the courage to step forward in situations like this, it does help more people. Now, it's taken a long time for people to do this, Jonathan. What do you think? Do you think this will have any kind of impact with Sum 41 coming forward and saying this again? Pretty big popular band at one point.
I can't answer the question that you're asking me because I don't have any of the context on that.
Yeah.
But what I can say is this. I remember being 15, 16 years old in the Broadway community in Manhattan in New York. I knew what I was doing. And that, I don't consider that particular part of my life abuse. I knew exactly what I was doing. Yet I've heard of other people who were sometimes younger, sometimes a little older, that didn't know the circumstances they were stepping into or had been put into. So I'm trying to be careful with this, but I do think you have to look at the circumstances, not just the numbers. And I think there's a lot of healing, years of healing that will come from somebody who was forced into something. And I think there are maybe hours to days of healing from somebody who made a decision, maybe regrets it later, but still goes on with the rest of their lives. And again, I'm not talking about rape or force. I'm talking about, when I was 16, 17, almost 18, I knew what was happening around me and what I was doing just as I did when I was 18, 19, 20. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I think there's a big difference between abuse, meaning somebody from the outside is grooming someone, and what's the other term? Misuse or bad decisions, whatever, from that individual's side.
Regrets, kind of something that you did before when you were
Right.
younger. Regrets.
Right. So all that being said, and I don't know the details.
The adult is still an abuser.
Hold on, but let me.
that's
Oh,
exactly what
hold
I'm
on.
saying.
I wasn't
Let's let him
finished,
finish his
JR.
point. Let's let him finish his point fast, GR.
Okay. My only thing is this. I don't know the stories you're talking about. I don't know them.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that while, yes, the adult should be held accountable, I think there should also be some accountability for the other person, whether that person. Now, look, if that person's 11, that's not what I'm talking about, okay? I'm talking about
Yeah.
a person who's 17, almost 18, 16, almost 17. Like, that to me, that
You're 18, you're a
minor
kid.
needs to be
Period.
held accountable almost the same way the adult would be.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't have to agree with that. I'm just saying, when I was 16, I wasn't any wiser than I was at 18.
I was easily
If we're
manipulated at
just looking at
16.
statutory, you could be easily manipulated tomorrow.
Yeah.
My point is, if we're just looking at statutory, then I think it we should dive a little bit deeper into the younger person's life before we completely destroy it. And we should look into that older person's life to make sure that they really do deserve for the rest of their lives to be
You're taking advantage
considered
of
a
one
day.
child.
That's just-
You
that's
should be
just my
locked in
opinion.
hell.
There's a
Sorry.
saying.
Say it
There's a
again.
saying that you may forgive, but the body doesn't forget, right?
Oh, you mean the body keeps the score? I've read that book.
Yeah.
Well, as someone as a victim of trauma, I thought that I was accountable. I was like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't whatever. My body doesn't forget. And I can tell you that there's plenty of scenarios where my body has let me know that I'm traumatized, and I may have mentally blocked things or thought that things were okay, and I thought that I was fine with this scenario and all that
Our
kind of
body
stuff.
hides the trauma inside. It's called
Exactly.
PTSD.
And so
It's true.
it's one of those things where at 16, even though you think you're accountable, you're not accountable. Even though you think that you're making your own choices, you're really not.
And that's why I was trying to I was battling whether or not even this up.
Well, no, but Jonathan, no, it's
because I
a
know
very
that-
valid point that needs to be
But
addressed too.
Let me say
honestly.
this real quick, Brian, if I can.
It does.
CPTSD is something that I actually do have from an abusive relationship in the past. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I've been through a $250,000 of therapy in the past couple years. I get it. I understand it. What I'm saying is this. If you feel like you didn't know, Lexi, that what you went through was troublesome, abusive, whatever you want to call it, traumatic, if you didn't know that, then you're right? But I know that for me, and I don't mean this in a funny way, though I smile because it's ridiculous for me. When I was 16, I knew exactly what I was doing. There was no trauma from my late teens, even though you could classify it as such, but I knew what I was signing up for, doing, where I was going, and what was going to happen when I got there. I knew it. The most traumatic experiences for me happened when I was in my early 30s and had a partner that treated me poorly. So it's like there's always an experience that's different. And so all I'm saying is we should hear out everybody involved and really listen to their experience and judge them on that. That's where I'm going to draw my line and turn it back to Brian. I hope that wasn't too deep.
No, I get that though, Jonathan. Is always you have to look at everything. You have to look at everything too. You can't just like take people for the first thing they say. That happens sometimes in our society. A lot of people just say automatically, then they must be right. And I agree with the victim that comes forward. Like I'm still getting shit because I don't believe the Menendez brothers. I'll get that probably for a while. I don't believe them, but I'm gonna take that shit and then hopefully they can prove me wrong. And if that did happen to them, I want them out because I think that's bullshit that actually happened.
This coming from the guy. Look at you, Brian. Look at you right now. I bet girls are throwing themselves at you. Right, Pepe?
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to the conversation at hand. I'm just saying. I mean, people like Pepe more than me, right? Pepe?
Everybody in the chat loves the Pep Star, and Pep Star loves everybody in the chat.
It's true, but I would say this though too. It's a good point to put out there though, Jonathan, because I do think that you can't jump on people sometimes. But like, I feel like strongly for this guy, Sum 41, that he is coming forward and saying this after all this time in his memoir. I think that people have to tell their story, and now sometimes perspectives are changed based off of how that person saw that situation. That can happen. But like, if this kid was in that much trauma, I didn't know what to do. He was believing in this one guy over and over again that he's gonna make him famous. Sometimes people do things that they wouldn't normally do for that fame. And you're young, you fucking look back and you regret it. It could be regret. It could be rape. It could be a lot of things.
And I think that I need to address what someone said in the chat. Pedophilia should not be, accepted at any point.
Oh, it's not.
Absolutely right. I agree 100%. All I'm saying is when I was a teenager in Manhattan, didn't even know the definition of that word. What I'm saying is I knew where I was going and what I was getting myself into when I was doing it. At 16, 17, the day before I turned 18, and then the next day when I was 18, I knew, and there was no real difference there. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying I knew that, and so there needs to be some. Go ahead.
No, not to cut you off, but like an interesting like counter to that is looking at something like with the Mr. Beast stuff. We've been talking about the Mr. Beast stuff at home, and like we were saying, and like. Yeah,
he's a big YouTuber. Yeah,
he's abusive, and it's like,
I don't know what you're talking.
I'm poor, and I'm a poor person, and I'm like, I sit all the time.
He's saying that he's saying he's poor.
I'm saying I'm saying I'm poor.
Sorry, I don't know the story. I'm saying
as a poor person, if somebody like Mr. Beast came along and offered me $100,000 to go sit in a shitty room for 30 days, or put myself in a traumatic situation where, at the moment I need the money, right? At the moment I'm saying I need this. In the moment I'm like, I am poor and I need this. It's exploitative, plain and simple. It's an exploitative thing. So to be able to say, yeah, he's not doing anything good. He's exploiting people left, right, and center. And then it's not the same as a sexual situation, but like now I'm putting myself in this situation where because I'm poor, I need that money. And now I'm mentally and physically abusing myself to a point that I'm like now going to come out of this and need to take that money and probably spend it on hospital bills and trauma treatments, because what I've done to myself to get this money hurt me more than the money was worth. And the fact that we live in a society that puts people in these positions, that we put people in positions where to get fame, they think that they need to do these things. To be able to survive, they think they need to hang off the side of a fucking building or bury themselves in a bunker for 30 days with, Mr. Beast bars as their only food. That's the world we live in. And that's sick. And that's a sick world to think about living in, that exploitation of yourself and your own body is thought of as the first thought that comes to your mind over your own safety and your own like well-being, because the exploitation is more necessary for you to get ahead than it is for you to think of your own safety. And I have thought of my own well-being and safety so many times in my own life that I'm poor. I don't have success in jobs and I don't have success at places because I think of my own health and well-being over sucking dick at a job.
I can't argue with any of that, Brian.
I know. I can't either. I agree with Alexia. Like, that will happen to people. You get down desperate and all that, and then you believe somebody's going to give you that ray of light to give you a chance to actually have the life you've always wanted. People are going to jump on it sometimes, and the abuse is there. The abuse is there because that person knows what they're doing.
I'm not advocating. Sorry, Brian. I swear to God, last time. I'm just saying I'm not advocating for abusers. I'm not. No. All I'm saying is when I was that age, that was my experience. I knew what I was doing.
You're lucky. Most people at that age don't.
Fair enough. I'm talking about my experience, and that's it.
But most 18-year-olds, most of them don't have a bloody clue what's going on in the world. They think they do.
The world is not their concern. The world is not the law. The world is what they're doing in that moment in that room. That's the law, not the world.
I'm just saying, every teenager in the world is the smartest person they know. Because I make a joke.
There's nothing wrong with sucking dick.
I was too, right?
For a job.
Here's an example. When I went in the military at 17, I thought my dad was the dumbest man on the face of the planet. I came home from BUDS training in boot camp a year and a half, say 2 years later, around number.
What's BUDS training? Sorry, what is that?
Basic underwater demolition school, SEAL training.
Silly me. Okay, got it.
So
anyway, I came home 2 years later, and I was damn shocked. My father had gotten a PhD in those 2 years. Think about that.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But what you were doing is a lot, though, too. Joe, what you were doing, though. You were doing some amazing things, too.
Every day,
pretty smart kid.
I did one thing that a lot of these people don't do. I was lucky. I grew up in those 2 years. And I realized how smart my dad was and how stupid I had been.
Yeah, but not everybody can do that. And again, the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll world is real. It's real out there. And there's a lot of things that happen in that world that are not right. And some are amazing for them and some are horrific. And there's a lot more stories that are coming out because of that. Again, shine light on the Diddy thing. In that same world, things are coming forward. But it happens in every place. It's just entertainment is more in your face. And these people are on the big screen, in our ears, on our earbuds, on the radio. And so they matter a lot. And so this stands out and it's bigger. It is bigger sometimes, but it doesn't make it bigger. It just is bigger because of how people look at it. Your brain isn't finished until you're developing until you're, was that 25?
Oh, yeah. Totally true.
Yeah.
But what if you're 17 and you have an interaction with somebody who's 18? Does that mean that 18-year-old is an abuser? I don't think that is.
Legally, yes.
That's an area where I'll go back and forth on. I'm like, especially if you were dating in high school and you got out of like whatever, like there's like a weird, like, you know.
Brian is like,
17,
why are y'all talking about this right now in this show? I'm not going to say any more on that.
It's good. It's good.
That's my opinion, but I'll.
Countess would have liked to have met you, GR. A younger you.
You have a chance with her, she said earlier in the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, she might, when you get those telomeres stretched, you might have a chance too, GR. Round of applause for Thirsty Daddy.
Announcement at the end of the show, Brian. A little announcement too, but keep going.
Okay. Well, I gotta say, I'm happy that he did step forward from Sum 41. This is being addressed. Again, abuse is never good. There is a gray area. Some of these things, as Jonathan said, with stories like people believing, again, court of law should always come into this, I think. But I tend to go like, don't fucking touch children. That's what I had to go with. Like that's what I said about R. Kelly when R. Kelly was trying to be like, oh, you know, there was this whole new statute of limitation thing that made it so that, you know, I touched this child back in 2003. It shouldn't matter anymore. I'm like, fuck you. It shouldn't matter. You fucking admitted you fucking shit on this kid when they were fucking 12 or 14. You You did it, man. You did it. It's done. Don't do it again.
Do I sound like I'm trying to back up those people? I'm not trying to.
No, you're not. You're not, Jonathan. What you did was a very valid point. And it's very appropriate for this conversation.
Right.
I'm just saying there's people out there that abuse the system, abuse people, and abuse kids, and it's not cool.
Yo, player, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we are live. And if you are able to join our Patreon, please join. Because the Pep Star needs more snickety snacks. Because I'm hungry. Holla back. Love y'all.